Hey guys, the real estate market across the country and especially in Charlotte is absolutely nuts right now. I know you've heard me talk about it. I know it's all over the news. We've got inflation, we've got skyrocketing prices, and what is happening right now for these first-time home buyers especially is a very tough situation that they're in. And we see a lot of people that are gonna get squeezed out of this market if they don't take action really soon. So we shot a webinar the other evening. I wanted to give you a replay of it. If you know anyone, including yourself, that is thinking about buying a home in the very near future, the information I share with you tonight will be very impactful for you. So go ahead and check this out and we'll see you on the inside. Welcome back to the channel. Before I let you into the webinar, my name is Brian Taylor and I'm the owner of Dreamline Realty in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe below and then click on that bell for notifications so you'll always be up to speed on everything that's happening in the Charlotte real estate market. I put out new videos every single Thursday on real estate topics, neighborhood tours, model home tours, and just everything else that's happening around the area. And my team and I get calls, texts, and emails every single week from people just like you that are either looking to make a smooth move to Charlotte or already live in Charlotte looking to buy or sell a home. So if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out. Our information is in the description below. And with that said, let's head on into the webinar. The topic we're talking about is why right now is the time to buy. So we are in a critical time in the real estate industry, one that I have never seen before. And there's a lot of chaos going on out there in the market right now. Everyone's talking about a bunch of stuff. So I wanted to really give you guys the nuts and bolts of what we're seeing and give you the truth about what is really going on out there in the market. All right, so today's topics are gonna cover the current state of the real estate market and where it's headed, why the window of opportunity right now is shrinking and it's shrinking really fast, how waiting to buy will cost you thousands, how rising interest rates are gonna impact your buying power, and how much time is left before people potentially get squeezed out of the market. Why renting right now is not an option, and proven tips and tricks that we have found to use to win offers. And I'm gonna give you some free resources at the end tonight. All right, so let's get started. So who we are, okay? So my name is Brian Taylor. I'm the owner of Dreamline Realty. I got my real estate license in 2003 and I started Dreamline Realty in 2016. In 2016, we went from 4 transactions to 98 transactions in 2021. We have a goal this year to help 150 families buy and sell real estate. I've personally closed over 250 real estate transactions in my career. I've been a top producing real estate agent in Cabarrus County for the last 5 years. And I was ranked in the top 150 agents in all of Charlotte in 2020. And I don't tell you that to impress you. I tell you that to impress upon you that we understand the real estate market. And if we end up having the fortunate time to help you out, you will be in very good hands with us. So I have a deep understanding of mortgage finance. I spent 13 years as a mortgage loan officer from 1997 to 2010, working with real estate agents, working with builders, and then I had this dream to start a real estate company. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and I moved to Charlotte in 1996. I have an MBA in finance, and I graduated from James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And I have a wife, Kristen, and 3 kids, Kayla, Noah, and Olivia. And when I'm not working, I enjoy spending time with my family, fishing, golfing, reading business books, and throwing tennis balls to my golden retriever, Bree. Next, I want you to meet the team. We have Olivia Kaufman. She's our director of operations. She handles everything from when one of our clients goes under contract all the way to closing. We have Kayla Simino, Will Simino, Serrano Ruiz, Jeremiah Dewberry, and we hired a new agent that started today, Kayla Johnson. So we are growing as a team. We have big plans for our future growth, and we're just excited of where we are right now and can't wait to help more and more families as we go through the years here. So real quick, the mission at Dreamline Realty is very simple. It's to impact lives and create lifelong relationships by providing a world-class level of service that goes far beyond our clients' expectations. And the whole theme around Dreamline Realty is delivering that world-class experience and service. And it's always all about the client. And our goal is to provide a Ritz-Carlton level of service and experience for all of our clients that come through our world. And if you have an interest in reading any of our Google reviews, we have 123 5-star reviews. You're welcome to go check that out on Google. Just Google Dreamline Realty, and you'll see some of the reviews for the past people that we've had the pleasure of helping out. All right, so why is today's topic so important? There are two driving forces right now that are happening at the exact same time. And these two forces are working together, and they're squeezing home buyers right out of the market. And it's making the dream of home ownership for a lot of people just simply unattainable. And we have a real passion for this business and helping people buy their first home, second home, investment home, whatever it is. But the events that are taking place in the market right now are literally alarming, and they're quite disturbing. So that's the reason why I wanted to put this webinar together. So it's critical for home buyers right now to take action very soon while there's still time, okay? And the two driving forces I'm talking about are rising home prices and rising interest rates. So when we take a look at the first force of rising home prices, the first thing we need to really consider is how did we really get in this spot to begin with? And there's two reasons why we're seeing these home prices soar. And the first reason has to do with new construction. So since 2007, new home builders have failed to build enough houses to keep up with buyer demand. And because of this, there's a $6 million shortage of houses right now that are needed to create a neutral housing market. So a neutral housing market is a market where there's 5 to 6 months worth of inventory on the market. That means that if no houses came on the market today, it would take 5 to 6 months for everything that's currently listed to be sold. As we sit today, we are at a half a month supply of inventory. So that means if nothing came on the market at all today, it would take 14 to 15 days for everything that's listed to sell. So we have this huge gap in inventory, which is one of the reasons why it's causing this major shortage of inventory for prices to skyrocket. So Sam Cater says the main driver of the housing shortfall has been the long-term decline in the construction of single-family homes. So I want to take a look at this graph for you and show you exactly over time what is causing this to impact us from a new construction perspective. So if we go back all the way to 1970, all the way to 2020, this line that goes down the middle of this chart shows the average annual units of new constructed homes that were completed. So as you can see, from 1970 all the way up through about 2004, you know, we had several months where we were above this line, a few years where we were below, but overall the consistency was really average. So it was perfect. That meant we had neutral housing markets. We had dips here and there, up and down, but overall it was pretty neutral. But when we got into 2004, if anyone remembers that 2004 through 2007 period of time, the market took off. New home builders were building houses at record paces, is why you see these bars in red. But if you also remember what happened in 2007 and 2008 is when we had the housing crash, right? So when the housing crash happened, it had nothing to do with a lack of homes. It had everything to do with bad mortgages being made. And a lot of people, unfortunately, went into foreclosure, had to do a short sale. Nobody at that time frame was buying houses whatsoever. So naturally, new home builders pulled back, and they didn't build nearly as many houses as they had in the several years past, the 30 years past. So as you can see in these bars in green, we are severely underproduced on a new construction perspective, which is partly why we are sitting in the position that we are right now. Now, the second reason we're here is due to the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, remember, sellers decided not to sell their house because they didn't want people entering their home and spreading the virus. Now, when that first happened, we as real estate agents were not able to show properties for 6 weeks because we were considered non-essential. But those sellers didn't know, when we didn't know the severity of what was going to happen, and there was a lot of fear going on, in the world, and no one really knew. So sellers decided just simply not to sell whatsoever. And a lot of them decided to stay put and make improvements to their house instead of selling. So working from home, as we started going through this phase of working from home, that started to become the new norm. And the need for a lot of people to move became less important for a lot of these sellers. And with the decreased levels of new construction, coupled with sellers unwilling to sell, this massive shortage of inventory was created to an even higher level. And if we take a look at this graph, this shows us, if we go back and look in January 2014, this line right here pretty much shows, our baseline. But in 2014, we had more inventory on the market than we really needed. And then we got into the years of 2015 through 2018. And this was caused by the lack of new construction that started back in 2017, that started to get to a point where it was impacting the market. So when we went into 2019, we picked up a little bit more inventory, but right at this time frame, right before the pandemic hit, and you can see how these numbers just drop. That is why we're sitting in this severe spot right now. We have to get this stuff turned around before anything is going to change. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So all of this at the same time, buyer demand added fuel to the fire. And a lot of people thought during the pandemic that the market was going to crash, the market was going to fail. That was not the case, right? So before the pandemic, buyer demand had already outweighed current inventory levels, and buyer demand was not phased at all by the pandemic. In fact, it made it worse. So even though sellers were hesitant to sell, buyers still needed to buy. And interest rates during that time fell to historic lows, and the 30-year fixed rate was at 2.5%. So everyone that was qualified to buy a home rushed out to the market to take advantage of these low interest rates. And with working from home being normal, many people could now work from anywhere in the country, and a lot of people decided to make Charlotte their new home. And check out this stat. 120 people a day are moving to Charlotte. So not only are we dealing with the low inventory levels, trying to help people that currently live in Charlotte buy a home, but we're getting hammered from all these people moving from all over the country, adding on to that. So that's why it's created a huge problem in Charlotte. And not only that, but millennials are now starting to enter the housing market to start building a family. And the problem became worse, and the dogfight for homes just intensified greatly. And all of this is leading to simple supply and demand economics, okay? So what we've got right now is we don't have enough sellers, and we have way too many buyers. And almost every house in the early part of 2020, and even before that, but it got really, really crazy around the beginning of 2020, when almost every house that was priced right in a good location started getting multiple offers. And over time, buyers became willing to pay over asking price, which was always unheard of to do that. Paying over asking price, and the bidding wars started to become fierce. So due to houses selling for above asking price, now all of the other houses in a neighborhood naturally went up in value. So, the neighbor down the street saw his neighbor put his house on the market and get $20,000 over asking price. So now he decides to sell for $20,000 more than asking price. Okay. Well, now that he gets $20,000 over asking price, the next neighbor decides to sell, but he's going to get $40,000 over asking price just because his two neighbors decided to sell. Okay. And now this cycle is starting to continue. And, that is exactly why we have seen home prices last year in the Charlotte area increase 17% in just last year alone. And we don't see this train slowing down anytime soon until more houses come on the market to tame this hot buyer demand. So where does inventory stand right now, and how much have homes appreciated across not only the country, but North Carolina and Charlotte? So if we take a look at this graph, this is a countrywide graph showing the housing inventory levels in 2021 compared to 2020. So this is December to December 2020. As you can see, the national average was down 27% in inventory. But if we look at North Carolina, we're down in 1 year, down 33% inventory. Every state in the country, with the exception of Idaho, is down in inventory. So let's take a look at home equity growth. Once again, the whole country, right? National average is 56,700. In North Carolina, if you bought a house last year, that house on an average is going to be worth $54,000 more than you would have paid for it in just 1 year. All right, so the second force that we're dealing with right now is rising interest rates, okay? So if we look at this graph, and we go over to January of 2018, interest rates were about 4%. We started to see them go up, and in January 1st of 2019, we were at 5%. Since then, it has just been a snowball effect of rates going down and down and down. And when we hit January 7th, 2021, you could get a 30-year fixed rate at 2.5%, which is completely crazy, but everybody refied, everybody was buying homes with fixed rates around 2.5. It was nuts. So as you've seen in the news and in the market, we have this thing called inflation, right? So everybody is seeing everything you go out and try to buy right now, it costs you more than it did a year ago. And you've also heard that the Fed has announced in order to tame this inflation, they are going to raise interest rates several times in 2022. Okay, now I want to caution you here. When they say they're raising interest rates, they're not directly saying they're raising mortgage rates. What they're raising is the Fed funds rate, which is money that banks borrow from each other for. But they do have an overall impact on mortgage rates over time. So every lender is pricing this stuff into their interest rates right now. So just a month ago, interest rates were at 3.22% fixed, okay? So last year, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Realtors all predicted where they thought rates were gonna go in 2022. So they predicted it by quarter, Q1 2022, Q2, Q3, Q4, and collectively at the end of it all, they expected rates to get to 3.7% at the end of 2022. But things have changed significantly. So here's an article that came out on January 24th. It says mortgage rates spike over the last few weeks. This article came out on February 17th, and I want to read some of this to you. Mortgage rates approach 4% much faster than expected. So if we look at this statement, it says a week ago, economists projected mortgage rates would reach 4% by the end of the year. Now the rate on a 30-year fixed home loan is just a whisper from that threshold, hitting 3.92% last year. That's up from 3.69 from a week ago, and the highest rate recorded since May of 2019. Since the beginning of the year, the rate has jumped more than 3/4 of a point on increased expectations that the Federal Reserve will make moves soon to beat back runaway inflation. So here's where I want to pause, guys. This right here is the big squeeze, okay? I'm going to go through this with you in detail, explain this the best that I can, but this is really the nuts and bolts of why I wanted to put this webinar on. So if you go to get financed with a mortgage company, they're going to have to keep you within a certain debt to income ratio. And for the sake of this example, I'm using 40% as that debt to income ratio. Now on a conventional loan, it's actually 36, but you can push that a little bit higher if you've got a higher credit score, maybe you have assets, and maybe you're putting down more than 5%. So let's assume that your monthly income is $6,000 per month, and you have $750 in debts. That could be a car loan, a student loan, a credit card payment, maybe another unsecured loan, whatever the case may be. Outside of your mortgage payment, you've got $750 in debts, okay? So if you were to purchase a house at $400,000 with a 3% interest rate, your mortgage payment would be $686, okay? If we take the $1,686 mortgage payment and add it to your $750 debts, and then we divide that by your $6,000 in monthly income, that's how I'm deriving at the 40.61% debt to income ratio, okay? But if interest rates rise by 0.5%, we have to still stay around this 40% debt to income ratio. So to keep your payment around $1,700, which is right in that range as we had before, that is an impact on your purchasing power by $20,000. If rates go to 4%, that impacts your purchasing power down to $350. And I'm going to follow the examples across. We go up to 4.25, puts you at $340, and 4.5 puts you at $330 for that same house that you wanted to buy at $400. So the point with this is just a 1.5% increase in interest rate is going to drop your buying power by $70,000. And rising home prices make this number even higher. So even though your purchasing power is impacted by the interest rate, this house you were looking at a year ago may now be worth $470. So that's going to even drop that further. So that's what I'm saying. This is where the squeeze is coming in. A lot of people are getting to a point where home ownership right now is unaffordable, especially for the first-time home buyers. And the only way to increase your buying power is to do one of two things. It's to increase your monthly income, or it's to lower your debts. That's the only two ways that you can outweigh this thing that's going on to get your buying power higher. Okay, so I did a video 2 weeks ago on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, where I talk about this topic and I go through a specific scenario with one of my clients who approached me a year ago to buy, and this particular gentleman decided to wait, and I walk you through what happened in that scenario and where he ended up. So if you get to my YouTube channel, check out that video. It'll go a little more depth about what I just shared with you. All right. So why waiting will cost you thousands of dollars. So here's what we're hearing everybody say. This happened just yesterday with some clients of ours that were thinking about moving here from New York. And they said these exact words. Well, we're just going to wait until the market gets better and prices come down, right? We hear that all the time. The bad news is, guys, prices are not coming down. So let's take a look at a house priced in January of 2021, priced at $280,000. At an interest rate at that point at 2.75%, the monthly payment on that home would have been $1,180 a month. So let's assume a 16% appreciation year over year. So that same house appreciated 16%. It's now worth $325. Interest rates at 3.5% last month would have put that payment of $1,459. So you've got a $45,000 difference in equity and a $300 or so higher monthly payment. If we go out to January of next year, that same house that was priced at $280 is going to be worth $377. And at a 4.25% interest rate, a payment of $1,854. So here is the real reason why right now is the time to buy, and what you're missing out on if you decide to wait this thing out, right? Waiting 2 years in that scenario is costing a homeowner $97,000 in equity gains and an increased payment of $674. So here's why renting is not an option. You probably heard out there, maybe you have people you know that are renting, maybe you're renting right now, okay? This article came out in December of 2021. It says rental prices jumped more than 10% this year and are poised to go even higher in 2022. This article came out today. It said rents are up more than 30% in some cities, forcing millions to find another place to live. Now, I have a friend that does property management in Florida, and he confirmed to me that that is exactly what is happening in Florida. So somebody who is in a lease and their lease ends on April 30th, they're getting a letter in the mail that says, hey, by the way, your lease expires on April 30th. And if you want to stay in your apartment, instead of paying $1,500 or $1,500 a month in rent, you're now going to have to pay $2,100. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can go ahead and leave, because I have a line waiting out the door for people who want to get into your apartment complex. So that's what's happening on the rental side. And then this article came out February 1st, and it said U.S. rent prices highest in decades, and they aren't coming down. So the rental game is just as fierce as the purchase game. So how do you win in this market? Okay, there's really 4 steps you've got to pay attention to. Number 1, by far, is you've got to get pre-approved, right? You've got to get with a lender and find out how much you can afford to buy. That's number 1. There is no point in looking at houses without knowing if you're even able to purchase, okay? We wouldn't want you to fall in love with houses that are outside of your price range. We have done this a couple times in the past, thinking that our clients were qualified. We showed them houses at $400,000, fell in love with the house. Then they went to get pre-approved and they could only purchase to $325,000. They were completely upset and devastated. And it's just, it can make things a little ugly. So sellers will require that we have a pre-approval letter in hand when we submit an offer. Otherwise, they're not going to take your offer seriously. And this step protects you, it protects your agent, and it protects the seller from wasting a whole lot of time, especially in this market. Now, a lot of people think that getting pre-approved is this massive process that's going to take days to submit all this documentation. It's really actually pretty simple, especially with technology now. Getting pre-approved takes about 30 minutes, and it can be done by just filling out a simple application online. But once that's complete, a lender should be able to issue a pre-approval letter that same day. And a local lender, I cannot stress this enough, a local lender is really who we prefer you to work with, that knows the market. And we have lenders that we can refer you to if you need help in this process. You know, we're not saying that you can't use a bank. You absolutely can use a bank. However, what we have found in the past is some of these banks, the big banks, we're finding the service is pretty poor because you're dealing with a lot of times somebody in a different state and someone that doesn't really know our market. You know, they take longer to close loans because they're buried in volume right now as well. So it's taking longer for those banks to get stuff done. And a lot of times when we have people that go through banks, a lot of times we miss closing dates, and that's a whole nother video for another time. But once we have the pre-approval letter, that's when we can start looking at houses. So the Nor Group of Alcova Mortgage is located right here in Harrisburg, right where we are. They're a great partner of ours. I'm going to give you a link to them. If you want to go ahead and get pre-approved, you can certainly do that. And the next step is searching for houses. So if you are not on our website right now, I would encourage you to create an account and let us help you set up a search, because we have an app, and this app is super cool. You can do lots of stuff with this app. We've tried to make this really, really convenient for our clients. So with our website and app, you can actually, create your search in favorite properties, so you can easily come back to those. And you can schedule showings right through the website and the app as well. And you also communicate with your agent right through the app. So it's super, super convenient. And you can go in and create your own safe searches, as many as you want to. If you want to do a search for Concord, do a search for, Huntersville, you can do all of that stuff through our website. And you can share properties with other people as well. So if you have someone else that's going to help you in the decision-making process, you can share that property with them and say, hey, take a look at this one. Do you think this would be a good fit? Whatever the case may be. But when you get set up on those searches, you're going to be notified immediately when new houses match your criteria when they come on the market. And our site updates every 15 minutes, and it pulls data directly from the MLS, so it's 100% accurate. Versus Zillow and Realtor.com, there's been a lot of cases where sometimes it'll show a house that's active on one of those sites, but it's actually under contract. All right, step number 3 is knowing the market and making a strong offer. So this market is crazy right now, and we've got to be best prepared if we're going to go in to make an offer. So we've got to be aggressive, and unfortunately, we've got to be willing to probably pay over asking price on any property you see, unless the house has been on the market for more than 5 days. Now, 5 days right now seems like 90 days 5 years ago. The days when we used to be able to go in and submit an offer at $5,000 under asking price, those days are long gone, unfortunately. And you have to be willing to pay a high due diligence fee in order to catch the attention of that seller. That is the one thing right now in the market that we're seeing is sellers are attracted to high due diligence fees. They want to be as less risk for them as possible. And a lot of people right now are also going in with no due diligence periods. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, but a high due diligence fee is something that is going to have to be there to catch the seller's attention. And if we do go over asking price, you're likely going to need cash to pay the difference between sales price and appraised value if that house doesn't appraise. And that's something we talk about. That's called an appraisal addendum. And houses, as you know, are selling super fast, and you're not going to have time to wait. You've got to make a decision really, really fast. I mean, the days of looking at a property and thinking about it overnight, those days are gone as well. By the time you think about it overnight, someone else has already gone in and got an offer accepted. So some tips and tricks that we have found success with in the recent past. So we've got to get into properties as soon as they come on the market. If we can do this and we can be one of the first couple people into that property and we submit an irresistible offer to that seller, they might go ahead and take our offer and just cancel the rest of the showings. This actually happened yesterday. We had a couple moving here from Raleigh, and they found a house in coming soon status. It just came on the market yesterday morning. They called me, they said, hey, I love this house. I want this house. Can we go ahead and make an offer? Well, I called the agent. They were accepting offers in coming soon status. We made that seller an irresistible offer. We came in over asking price by a good bit. We paid a big due diligence fee, no due diligence period. We waived the inspection. We basically made it as seamless for the seller as possible. And they accepted that offer last night at 8 o'clock, and the house was supposed to come on the market on Thursday. So those things can happen. We just got to be ready to go. And one of the things that we have found success with is we have our lender call the listing agent and let them know that our buyer's offer is strong and that the mortgage is being done locally, not by a big bank in another state. Alcova Mortgage, we do a lot of business with them. They've got a great reputation in the area and they know most of the successful realtors out here. So when they make that phone call and that listing agent and seller know that this loan is gonna close, that makes a huge difference than seeing a pre-approval letter coming from Montana, right? It makes a big deal. And then we call the listing agent up front and ask them and say, hey, what terms are most important to the seller? Maybe they want a quick close. Maybe they want a lease back. Maybe they want to stay in the house for a week after closing to help them get out. Or maybe they prefer a conventional loan versus an FHA loan. There's lots of things that the seller is going to be attracted to other than just the sales price. And that's why it's not always about the highest price that wins. The terms of that offer matter. So when you see a listing out there and it says highest and best offer by Saturday at 6 o'clock, that doesn't mean that the highest sales price on that offer wins, right? If our terms are better and it's more attractive to that seller, it's just not always the highest price. So don't think that is the case. That doesn't mean we can go in with a weak offer, but that means that we've got to be strong and really play to what the sellers, what their importances are. All right, so the future and my market predictions. Okay, and these are my opinions only, but I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen as we roll forward. Okay, I think we're going to be in this competitive market for a while. I think we're going to see 18 to 24 months of this competitiveness, dogfights, multiple offers. I don't think we're getting out of the woods on this anytime soon. The buyer demand is just too strong to make any immediate dent in the low inventory levels that we're seeing. Now, new construction builders are ramping up production. The problem is they've got to get land, they've got to develop that land, and that's a whole process in that in itself. So I don't think we're going to see any immediate impact of that stuff for several years down the road, although it's going to be a huge help. Home prices in 2022, I think will appreciate by at least 12%. I really think that we're going to see that 15 to 17% appreciation, just like we did last year. I don't see any reason why we are not going to get there. We have less inventory this month than we had in February of 2021. So it's going to take somebody a lot to convince me that homes are not going to appreciate at that same amount as last year. So with that said, the house that's worth $400,000 today is going to be worth at least $448,000 in December. That's assuming a 12% appreciation. These rising interest rates, in my opinion, are going to have little impact on slowing down buyer demand. There is just way too strong. And I don't think interest rates are going to slow down this market at all until we cross over 5%. And that may not even be enough to do it. And we'll have to reevaluate if we do get to 5%. So, here's a fact. Interest rates hit a record low of 5% in 2018. And nobody thought they were going to go lower than that. That was just unheard of and unseen. But interest rates went to 2.5% in 2019. And now everybody thinks that 4.5% is a bad rate. So I think people have just been spoiled for a little bit too long. When I got into this business, interest rates were 7.5%. And when we crossed over to 6.5%, everybody thought that was like the best thing ever. It was just amazing. And now we're in the 3% range and heading up, and everyone is a little bit freaked out, but it's still historically low interest rates we're sitting at. So the bottom line, if you're able to buy now, you'll need to do that or you're going to get left behind. That is what I'm saying. All right. So there's some free resources I want to share with you all that joined tonight. I'm going to show you how to get all these in just a minute, but I'm going to give you a copy of my Buying Your Dream Home book. And this book was written in a question and answer format. It's 48 pages. I'm going to give the digital version of it, but it pretty much walks you through the very first conversation you'll have with us and answer all the questions you'll have along the way, all the way up until closing. Okay. And if you read this book and there's not a question in there there's not an answer you have a question for, let us know so we can include that question in our next version that we'll be putting out. We're also going to give you access to our home buyer guide. This is a 23-page guide that kind of walks through the home buying process in a more of a visual format. There's a lot of great stuff in here. It talks about some mortgage financing stuff and a lot of good stuff there. So in addition to that, we're going to give you access to our VIP home buying system. This is another 24-page guide that we put together that talks about the home buying process in a little bit different way. So that's going to be available to you as well. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people have a hard time understanding is the due diligence process, right? They want to know what happens during the due diligence period. How is a due diligence fee different than earnest money? What happens after due diligence ends until closing? Where's the risk for the buyer? What can happen? We put a PDF slide together that breaks this down. We're going to give you access to that. And then we're going to give you access to our home buying process. So this basically talks about, on the left-hand side of this form, everything that you're going to be working with your real estate agent for. And then on the right-hand side, everything that you're going to be working with your mortgage company for. And at the very end, how it all ties in together at the closing. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I highly recommend you do that. I put videos out every single Thursday, either on real estate topics. There's videos out there that talk about the earnest money process, the due diligence process. I've got neighborhood tours. I've got a bunch of stuff out there. We've got close to 60 videos right now. Check that YouTube channel out, and I'm going to give you the link below to do that. But you're going to want to check some of that out because we put stuff out every single Thursday. These are some of the videos that we have released. We got a video on appraisal addendums. We've got some market report stuff, buying land. We've got a video on that. We've got some neighborhood tours. And then we have a video about why Dreamline that will kind of walk you through the process. If you actually work with us, how we take care of you from start to finish. That's a good video to check out there. And then we have videos on, do you need a home warranty? Crawl spaces. We see lots of problems with crawl spaces on home inspections. That walks you through that. Some different things about showings and how not to get burned on a wire scam alert scam that's been going around in Charlotte. So check those out. Also get plugged into our Facebook page. Again, I'll put these links in the document I'm going to give you. And then follow us on Instagram as well. So check us out on social, get plugged into that, and keep up with everything that we're doing at Dreamline and everything that is going on in the real estate market. So if you want to take a second, I'm going to leave this up on the screen. If you just scan that code, everything I just shared with you is going to be saved in a Google Drive folder for you, and you can download that stuff. And if you get off the webinar and you forgot where to go to get that, just shoot me an email in the invitation link that I sent you, and I'll send you a direct link right to that folder. So I'm going to move forward. Like I said, if you need that link again, just send me an email. We'll get it right over to you. Okay, so next steps. If you are wanting more in-depth consultation, let's call it, about your situation and your move to Charlotte or your move within Charlotte, the best way for us to do that is just to hop on a Zoom call with us, right? Spend 15, 30 minutes with us. We'll talk about what your situation looks like. We'll put a good strategy together, and then we will, make a game plan to try to get you into a house. And you can do that at smoothmovecall.com. That link will also be in that folder I gave you. Is a Google Doc form. It's got links to our social media, and it's got a link to hop on and schedule a Zoom call with us right through that link there. All right, guys, that's all I've got to share with you tonight. I do want to spend some time opening things up for Q&A, whether you want to ask me a question about the topic we talked about tonight or something completely unrelated in real estate. I am here for you, and I will stay on as long as it takes to get all your questions answered. So if you've got a question for me, go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for the information that you have given us this evening. I know coming from another state, you're just still not sure what location you want to land your feet on. So for me, that's the difficult part, like where in North Carolina, whether it's the outskirts of Raleigh or the outskirts of Charlotte. So that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
Well, if we can be of any help to you, just reach out, and we'd be happy to go in more depth into that conversation with you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Anybody else have any other questions?
I got a question too. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Hey, Morton, what's up?
I've been working with Will for a while. He also sold us our townhouse about a year or so ago, and really enjoyed working with him and his wife. And I've been looking at potentially investing in rental properties here the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, Brian, what your opinion is about the market for that right now, because it seems like the more I learn about this, boy, the numbers almost don't make any sense as far as cash flow, et cetera, right now, when you take into consideration the purchase price and, of course, rehab cost and insurance and all the other expenses you'll have versus what you can get for the house in rent. But it's an avenue I would really like to pursue and get some rental properties.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with the rental market is the challenge there, Morton. Just to be honest, I mean, the people that are looking for rental properties, they're competing against these big institutional companies that have just tons and tons of cash. And they're flooding the Charlotte market right now, trying to pick up as many properties as they can. You just have to try to get a winning offer is all I can say. Your best chance on one of those rental houses is something that's probably been on the market for 10 or 14 days. If it's still on the market after 10 or 14 days, then the institutional investors have probably already passed on it. And you may be able to pick something up that way. But yeah, it's competitive. There's no other way to say it on the rental side. We're seeing a lot of these neighborhoods that were built 20 years ago when these home prices started for these first-time buyers in the 130s. They're coming in and they're paying 40 or more over asking price in cash. And the challenge, that sellers, or other people competing against that have is they can't compete with cash. And that's why a lot of these first-time buyers as well are just getting burned. And it's shameful to see it. But cash talks to these sellers, and they're offering 21-day closes, no repairs. I mean, they're making it so attractive that a regular person that's trying to get financing, then they got to worry about the appraisal and all the other stuff that goes on with it. So it's tough. It's absolutely tough. But I would just say, keep plugging away and try to find something that could work for you. But yeah, it is tough out there.
Are those big companies in the business, do you think, because they feel it is a good investment? I mean, that's why I'm in it, right? But yeah. Because on the one side, I've been thinking, maybe this is not a good time to get into this market if this is how it is. But if these big companies with money are in it, then I kind of think, well, they probably know more than I do. And they feel that long-term it is a good investment.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely they do. That they know where the market's headed, and there's no slowdown right now on price appreciation. So yeah, they're just scooping these things up left and right.
Great. Yeah. Thanks.
You bet. Anybody else have a question?
Hi, Ben. Thank you so much for sharing this information. It's great and very helpful. I live in Concord and my daughter goes to Concord school, but my choice is to move to Harrisburg after end of her school, which is June 2nd week. Okay. So what is the good time frame to offer a home which I like April or March, or can I wait until May, or what would be the good month?
For you to sell your house right now?
To buy a house in Harrisburg area. Oh
yeah, I mean, Harrisburg's tough. I mean, right now, as we sit here today, there's 7 houses on the market in Harrisburg. 3 weeks ago, that number was at 19. So there's not much for sale here. Are you looking for new construction?
No, resale.
Resale, okay. So yeah, again, I mean, it doesn't, unfortunately in this market, what we're seeing, it doesn't matter where you are, what price ranges we're in. We're seeing multiple offers into the 700 and 800 range. Do you have a house to sell? No, I rent it. I'm renting right now. Okay, you're renting right now? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I would say anytime you find something that you like, there's no point in waiting for it. Because these houses in Harrisburg are getting snatched up in 2 or 3 days too. And a lot of them with multiple offers as well. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think the longer somebody waits it out, I mean, every month these prices are going up. So the longer you wait it out, you're going to be probably paying more for something. So I would say if you find something you like, it's worth it to explore trying to get in on that thing sooner than later. Okay. Thank you so much. You bet. All right. Well, I'll let you all go unless you have any other questions. If you do have a question after this, just reach out to me. My contact information's in that email invite, and I appreciate you joining, and we'll be doing more of these webinars. So stay tuned for more coming down the road. All right. Thanks for joining. Have a great night.